Israel has bombed a cafe in Gaza City. The Al Baka cafe was crowded with civilians when the airstrike took place, killing 39 people. It was one of the few remaining spots in the enclave where people were able to access the internet or charge their phones. Dozens were killed in the blast. Amongst those was photojournalist and filmmaker Ismail Abu Hattab, whose reporting on the genocide has been used by Western outlets like the BBC and Deutsche Welle. A journalist, Bayan Abu Sultan, who has used her account Bayan Palestine to give the world an insight into the dreadful conditions in Gaza, was also injured in the attack. Her condition is currently unknown. The Israeli military has now killed over 220 Palestinian journalists and media workers in Gaza. And to give you a sense of conditions in Gaza for those still alive, late last year, my colleague Stephen Methven was in touch with Bayan to ask if she'd participate in a project. She said no, fearing for her and her family's lives if she drew any more Israeli attention to herself. Also killed was renowned artist Franz al-Salmi, whose work has been internationally exhibited. A 60-year-old Abu al-Nur had just left the cafe when the bomb hit. He told The Guardian this: "Just as I was close, a missile struck. Shrapnel flew everywhere, and the place filled with smoke and the smell of gunpowder. I couldn't see anything. I ran toward the cafe and found it destroyed. I went inside and saw bodies lying on the ground. All the cafe workers were killed. There was a family there with their young children. Why were they targeted? It was a place where people came to find some relief from the pressures of life." The cafe had survived 20 months of Israel's assaults on Gaza. Another eyewitness said this: "Forget red lines. We're past that. Nothing left to say. Looked around, all I see is blood. Men, martyrs, limbs. Unbelievable. People come here to take a break from what they see inside Gaza. They come westward to breathe." As we've said repeatedly, there is no safe place in Gaza. Now, there is nowhere to breathe either. Footage of the aftermath of the strike shows the damage to both the cafe and to human bodies, with the ground littered in shrapnel, broken furniture, and pools of blood. Amongst the scenes described by the witnesses, a dead 4-year-old child, an elderly man with both legs blown off. Nearly 57,000 Palestinians have now been killed by Israel in Gaza, and almost the entirety of the enclave's 2.3 million inhabitants have been displaced, forced to find a way to survive amongst the territory now reduced to rubble. Kieran, what did you make of this story? Quite extraordinary, because this is and I mean that. I mean, that's a word you not really associate with the story in Gaza. Extraordinary. It's all extraordinary. What's new? This was a space that was overwhelmingly used as a resource and a hub by journalists, by prominent members of Palestinian civil society, to tell the world what was going on. It was a cafe with internet access. It was hit by a missile. What do you make of it?
I just don't know what to say anymore about Gaza. I really don't. There's a lot to be said for what can happen outside of Gaza in our own country, and we'll come on to that after. I think we're going to talk about that in a minute. But when it comes to what's going on inside Gaza, it's so important that we continue to cover it and to give daily, or if not daily, near daily updates. And yet, somebody who prides himself on being able to find original things to say about things, successfully or not, I am out of ideas, Aaron. I really am. And it's just horror show after horror show. And you're right, this is a bit different because it's a specific place of refuge or respite that journalists who are covering the genocide go to. But what can you say about that, except that Israel has shown us that it has absolutely no conscience. It has no conscience whatsoever to speak of. Where its conscience should be, there is the abyss. And that's it. That's really all I can think to say. We know what we're dealing with here, or at least nobody can say that they weren't warned over and over and over again. I've said before on the show, if we don't intervene, or if this isn't stopped through some combination of methods and mechanisms, this is going down to the last drop of Palestinian blood. And I don't say that to be some kind of apocalyptic doom prophet, mad monk or something. I say it because empirically, that seems to me to be A, the design, and B, the reality, where it's heading. So I feel as devastated as every other person with a glimmer of conscience watching that. I am almost out of ideas as to how to mine the English language to find language sufficient to describe the cruelty that has been leveled at the Palestinian people by Zionism and by an expression of that Zionism, the IDF and the Israeli state.
I think we need to start talking about the A word, which is appeasement. Our governments need to stop appeasing Israel. When you do A-level history about the Second World War, you learn about Italy in the 30s going into Ethiopia. You learn about the Japanese going into Manchuria. The League of Nations do nothing, and that basically gives the green light to the Second World War. Basically, gives the green light to the Axis powers, particularly the Third Reich, to engage in expansionism. Oh, we can just do this, turns out. This is very similar. What Israel is doing in Gaza, and of course this didn't start a couple of years ago, but what it's doing since October the 7th, 2023, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, genocide, pushing these people out fundamentally of the Strip. This is a test case for the geopolitics of the 21st century. If they get away with this, with the blessing, and it is a blessing, overt or tacit, and it is a blessing, I think it's being tacitly blessed by the Western powers. If they get away with it, then these are the new rules of international relations. You can just kill people. You can just blow off the legs of 65-year-old men. You can just mutilate and murder whole families. Very similar to what was going on with the Japanese and the Italians, like I say, in their colonial exploits of the 1930s. Because that wasn't stamped down on, because it was appeased, we've got something far worse. And I suspect we'll see the same in the decades to come, unless the international community stands up and stops appeasing Israel. Now, I just want to bring you up this tweet from the UK's chief rabbi, Ephraim Mervis. It touches on our next story. Very important. This is from Sir Ephraim Mervis. My apologies. This is a time of national shame. He's not talking about Israel. The airing of vile Jew hatred at Glastonbury and the BBC's belated and mishandled response brings confidence in our national broadcaster's ability to treat anti-Semitism seriously to a new low. I mean, what the hell is going on? It should trouble all decent people, it doesn't trouble me, that now one need only couch their outright incitement to violence and hatred as edgy political commentary for ordinary people to not only fail to see it for what it is, but also to cheer it, chant it, and celebrate it. Toxic Jew hatred is a threat to our entire society. It is a national shame. It's a national shame for Israel that it's killed tens of thousands of kids in all likelihood. That's a national shame. I don't care about hurty words. I literally couldn't care less what any of my compatriots in this country, 68 million people in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, I couldn't care less what any of them say about a foreign army. I couldn't care. Don't care. I'm half Iranian. You want to slag off the Iranian army? Go ahead. You want to slag off the French army, Indian army, Pakistani army, Indonesian army, Dutch army, Russian army? The BBC do that every day. Go ahead. I literally don't care. But somehow I'm meant to think that the IDF is representative of Jewish people around the world, including in this country. Which, by the way, if I say that, it's anti-Semitic. If I say that the IDF is an expression of Jews around the world, including this country, I would be called anti-Semitic because I'm conflating Israel and its armed forces with Jews. Which, by the way, I can see the argument there. So Ephraim Mervis can do it to shame people and to prohibit their free speech and free expression. But if I say the same thing, or if you say the same thing, it's anti-Semitism. By the way, if Jewish people say it when they're critical of Israel, they're also anti-Semites. See how it works?